Welcome to Vermont Commons Open House. We appreciate you being here today. And we're excited to have you spend time with us this afternoon. It's a beautiful day in northern Vermont. And while I've been thinking about open houses and us being together, while the way we gather may have changed, I will tell you that the community that comes together has not. And the dedication and passion of this community continues to inspire and impress me every day. So I'm thrilled to be able to share it with you and just thrilled to welcome you to our inclusive and vibrant community. So welcome to Vermont Commons. We appreciate you being here today. And without further ado, we are going to have Julian introduce our first speaker.
Hi, so my name is Julian Roy. I am really glad that you guys could all join us today. So I graduated from Vermont Commons this past spring, and I'm calling in from New York City, where I attend Columbia University. So I remember being in many of your guys' position, just under much different circumstances. And so even though we're interacting in this really abnormal way, I'm hopeful that today's session answers any questions you all might have about VCS. So to get things started, I'm going to welcome Jill Strawbridge back again, our Director of Admissions.
Thank you, Julian. It's so great to see you. I'm so glad to have you checking in from Columbia University. And I would like to introduce our very first speaker, Dexter, our head of school. Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks, Jill. Julian, so great to see you. How's Columbia?
Well, I have midterms this week, so I'm procrastinating in every way I can.
Thrilled to see you there. Thrilled to see you. Thanks for coming today. My name is Dexter Mahaffey, and I'm the head of school at Vermont Commons School, and I'm thrilled that you could join us today for our fall open house. Look forward to meeting many of you in person over the coming weeks and months, and very excited to tell you about the school. It's going to take a few minutes to introduce you to it, and you may have already read a bit of this on the open house, but I hope I can highlight some of the spirit of the place beyond just the facts and details. So I'm very excited thinking about next school year. Joel has probably mentioned to you that, of course, we still accept students during the school year if we have space and if conditions are right and it's a good fit. But our focus is now thinking about the 2021 to 2022 school year, which will be our 25th year. Truly amazing to think about that. Vermont Common School was founded in 1997, and we are a 6th grade through 12th grade coeducational college preparatory day school. We have 2 campuses, our historic school building in South Burlington at 75 Green Mountain Drive, which is an efficiency-focused, repurposed office building that supports a comfortable and cozy and collaborative learning space for classes averaging in size of about a dozen students per each faculty member. And that space was a conscientious decision of the board and the school leadership long ago to repurpose a building for environmental purposes, and certainly to have it located in the heart of access, not just to Burlington, but to the entire Chittenden County area, because we love to get out into the world. And then we have a new campus, our new outdoor education center, which is a 55-acre field, wetlands, streams, and forests 15 minutes south of in Charlotte. Our school's mission, just in case you haven't glanced at the website, is scholarship, community, and global responsibility. And we've always defined global responsibility in terms of 2 very crucial factors at the core of our institution, which is social justice and environmental stewardship. I heard a head once upon a time quote, I think it was Cesar Chavez who said this, that the end of knowledge is service. And in that particular case, the way that he was using that term end means sort of the purpose, the conclusion of knowledge is service. And that is in the core of our mission. When you think about it, scholarship at the front end, community in the middle, that's how we get the scholarship done. But to what end, to what purpose? Service to others, service to the planet. That is Vermont Common School's goal. As a rigorous intellectual institution, rigorous intellectual institution scholarship, which we really define by learning for the sake of learning and learning for the sake of service to others, as I said, is and always has been our top priority. So we're not focused on just, say, bare achievement or bare accomplishment, but true intellectualism with purpose, which is why we use the word scholarship. But the big thing that I would say, how do we go about that? And that is our unique nature. The foundation of our school is the strong, personal, collaborative relationship between student and teacher. Vermont Commons is a place where everyone is known, and not just that every student is known, not just that every student has a teacher or 2 with whom that student connects and is known by that teacher. Every student is known by every adult. Every faculty member, every administrator knows and supports every student. If you go read John Dewey's foundational writings about democracy and education in America from over 100 years ago, Dewey talks about what must happen in the ideal form of education. And he talks about there must be a strong connection and relationship between an ethical teacher and a student. Everything else is sort of secondary, is unnecessary. And so we've always focused on that and making sure that every student is known and every student is considered for whom they are, and that person, that potential that they have is what matters. We meet students where they are and we encourage them not to become some version that we think they should become of themselves, but what they truly are. There is no homogenized ideal version of a Vermont Commons student. And in fact, actually, a parent who is on this call right now and has joined us today, a parent of a current student, once said, and it's my favorite quote, we're often asked, what does the ideal graduate of Vermont Commons School look like? And she said, and I hope she knows who she is, she said, my sense is that Vermont Commons students graduate very much themselves. We love that about our approach to students, making them the best version of themselves, encouraging them to find their own path to that. What do we do along the way? What does this look like? Well, we're a school of collaborative, interactive classes in traditional subjects: English, social studies, science, mathematics, world language, we do Chinese, and we do Spanish. And arts, everyone takes art every single year. It's not an elective, it's not an add-on, it is core to us. And our arts include studio art, music, and theater. But also, because, and again, inspired very much by John Dewey, we believe that so much about learning requires engaging directly in the world, in the real world, and thinking about application and thinking about engagement and thinking about learning by doing. Our school has a long heritage of experiential education. And in particular, that has manifested itself in something that we call encounter weeks, which take place typically 3 times a year for a week, when we close the school building and we break into small groups of 10 or 12 students and 2 faculty, and we disperse across New England in those groups for week-long experiential education trips. And it might be a service trip, it might be an art trip, it might be a social studies studying trip, for example, studying world religions in New York City. It might be a backpacking or paddling trip in the Adirondacks, but always we have focused on getting students out so that they have the capacity and knowledge of how to engage the world, not something that they would learn down the road and later when they say get to university or off into the world, but that they would have already done it on a regular basis from a very young age now, so that they're comfortable with the world, they see what the world needs, they see how they have their own agency in enhancing and supporting and improving that world, and they're ready to go when they graduate from Vermont Commons. So what are we doing now? There's the pandemic, of course, the elephant in the room. And so I'll answer that in just a little bit of detail. We're doing exactly what we've always done with this precisely the same priorities, which is uncompromised academics, maintaining our community, and staying true to our core and identity. Now, what exactly does that look like at Vermont Commons in the fall semester of 2020? This fall, we've chosen to consolidate our traditional academic subjects into 3.5 days of classes online with our teachers. And these are direct regular class periods where the students gather with the teacher and the teachers using the absolute best practices for online education, which they spent the summer gathering training in that, and they use those to carry students through our academic program, because it was crucial for our community that we have an undiminished academic program going into the 2021 school year. But we consolidated it into 3.5 days of school because the other absolutely crucial part about us is community. And that was something that we also discovered and heard loud and clear from all constituents at the end of last spring. Can we find a way to be back in person at all and maintain that community and welcome new members into it? And as a result, we also spend 1 day a week outside in experiential education classes, very much like our encounter weeks, but we call them encounter experiences because now this year they happen every single Wednesday this fall. And again, it's small groups, 10 to 12 students, a couple of teachers, and we're spread out in locations across Chittenden County and even a little bit further abroad for one of them, in short courses, about 6 weeks in length. And they range from everything from mountain biking to environmental-based art to creative writing workshop to scientific mapping of our new outdoor education center's land. And so we work very hard to make sure that we stay who we are, and that while the world has changed around us for the short term, that we haven't in terms of what we offer and how we take care of our students and our faculty and our community. As we look to the second semester, which is something that we're beginning this week, we'll again undertake community-based scenario planning, guided by Health Department and Agency of Education guidance, as well as the guidance of our regional accrediting organization, NEASC, and our national organization, the National Association of Independent Schools. We will take first and foremost both the safety and the interest of our teachers, students, and families, and as always, work everything through the best practices, the educational best practices, making the decisions through the lens of our mission. At the end of the day, Vermont Commons has been, is, and will continue to be a place driven by scholarship, community, and global responsibility. So what's lastly to close happening right now? Our sixth graders and our other students, our sixth graders and our other new students are slowly but surely finding their way through classes, grade level gatherings, sports, clubs, and other activities. Our seniors are readying, and I mean, they are readying. We are 1 week away from compiling their first round of applications to some of the most competitive, creative, and compelling colleges and universities in the country, sometimes the world. Our alums spread across the country and world are living out our mission in the world, from their work as frontline medical workers to college professors and school teachers to financiers to diversity practitioners and hundreds of other fields, bringing their knowledge to the service of others and the world. So, yes, it's an unusual and a different time from what it's been, but it continues to be an exciting, vibrant learning community. I'm thrilled that you've taken the time to join us. I'm going to wrap up my comments there. Thank you for listening, and want to hand it back over to Jill. And we very much look forward to meeting you and sharing the wonderful, wonderful place that Vermont Commons School is with you. Thanks again.
Thank you, Dexter. And one of the housekeeping items I should have mentioned up front is there will be an opportunity to ask questions during the student panel and the parent faculty panel. If you want to shoot those questions to us in chat, we'll make sure that they get directed to the appropriate person. Additionally, we are always available for questions via email or phone, and we look forward to answering those questions. So next on our schedule is Mark Keegan, science instructor, and Talia, one of our 9th grade students, telling us about faculty student engagement, or showing us.
Hey, yep, hello. So I'm Mark Keegan. I teach chemistry, physics, and an engineering design course with 8th graders.
And I'm Talia. I'm in 9th grade, and I've been attending Vermont Commons since I was in 6th.
Yeah, and so one of the special things about Vermont Commons is a lot of different ways, as Dexter was explaining, that students and teachers interact outside of regular classes. And so Talia wasn't actually a student of mine until 8th grade, but by the time that started, where Talia was a student in my class, we'd had lots of opportunities to get to know each other. And that first one was in our Encounter Week program when Talia was just a 6th grader.
The very first time I interacted with Mark, we were planting trees together when I was in 6th grade. I hadn't had him as a teacher yet, but we planted trees, we kind of fixed the mulch, we transplanted and took inventory. And that was like really the first time I got to know him.
Yep, and so we spent a week together doing things for the Intervale Community Nursery in Burlington. We were working for the city of South Burlington, planting trees, and so some of those are in Zemansky Park, which is a city park that's close to campus, and often we'll bring students there, and I see those trees still, and it's really just fun for me every time we're there, and I see that little patch of trees growing now, and I think back to that week, and they're going to be there for long after you graduate, Talia, and I'm going to be able to just keep going back and visiting there, and so it's going to remind me of that first week when we did that Encounter Week, which is really just really so much fun.
Yeah, so the next time I interacted with Mark was in 7th grade when we went to the Teton Science School in Wyoming in the middle of winter for another.
I'm going to share pictures, Talia.
Okay.
Hold on, hopefully this works. If everybody sees this, I'm not sure. Hopefully everyone can see. So yeah, so there you are in massive snow in Wyoming in the middle of winter. Everything is big in Wyoming, including the snowdrifts. And so this was you as 7th grade. This was such a great picture that I remember the science school there made this one their like lead picture on their Instagram feed for a couple of days while we were out there. So just to give you a sense for how big that snow and that experience was. Let me just take that down.
Yeah, the snow, some of the drifts were over 6 feet tall, which is taller than both me and Mark. And it was kind of crazy to see how tall, because you could see on the hills, the tops of the trees just poking out of them. And the trees would get weighed down so much by the snow that I remember the first day when we had lunch outside, the wind came and the snow just dumped all over our lunches and made our sandwiches soggy.
Oh yeah, we thought we were so smart, like getting in underneath a tree for the shelter, and then we just got like totally dumped. I remember I moved out of the way the first time, and like the rest of the group was just so tough. and you all just stayed put. And it just like, I just remember being off to the side in a clearing for the rest of lunch, and you guys just like having fun with it and getting snowed on periodically and having just such a great time out in this winter wonderland. Just so much fun.
Yeah, the first time I was able to actually cover my lunch, but then it happened again a couple minutes later, and then I had a couple inches of snow all over my lunch. So another thing about that encounter week was that we were partnered up. And I remember that they had us line up shortest to tallest. And I knew right away that being at 4'9" at the time, I promise I am much taller now, but I knew I was going to be the shortest and Mark was going to be tallest, but I had no idea how they were going to partner us up. But,
oh yeah, so let me share. I've got another picture, Talia. So Zoom
yes.
doesn't really like allow you to see in person that. And so this is another picture of the two of us together at the week. And so, yeah, they did that, you know, little technique they have for making partners where they lined everybody up like by height, like Talia said, and then they fold the line in half. And so the two ends come together. And so the two of us then came together at the end of the line, and I didn't know what to do. And it was funny. And the rest of the group was just, you know, laughing and having fun with that idea. The two of us are going to be partners the week. And I didn't know what to do. So I said, hey, little buddy. And I offered my fist to you for a little fist bump. And then you just like look right back at me and you were just like, hey, little buddy. And you gave me back that fist bump, you know, right back. And the rest of the group just lost it. Like, that was just so funny because I don't get called little buddy by very many people at 6'4". And you're like, it turns out like in the classroom, you're pretty serious and motivated as a student, but being able to be outside in this different environment, like this opportunity to see like you've got a sense of humor. And that was just really awesome because I've got a sense of humor too. And I love funny, and being able to let's have that moment right then, just spontaneous like that was just really fun. And it showed me like you weren't going to be intimidated, and we're just going to be great as partners out there.
Yeah, we spent the week trekking through that 6-foot deep snow, like observing animals, cross-country skied, and so much more. And that was a really fun trip.
Yep. And so we knew each other from these, you know, really cool experiences before you started in my class. But then, okay, so 8th grade came around, and now finally you're actually like a student in my class. And that first one is a class we run called Design Thinking, and it's a series of hands-on projects where the purpose is to expose students to the engineering design process.
Yeah, that was a really fun class, but I also remember how challenging it was for a couple of reasons. A lot of the teaching that you did was us doing things hands-on, and you explained at the beginning of the week how to do specific skills, but then we really had to learn how to apply them to our projects. We also you made very clear constraints, but we had to come up with our own like criteria of what we wanted to include. And then we also had to ask for other people's opinions on our work. We had to interview to see what other people wanted for this specific type of project and get feedback on what we have made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so like that, the whole idea with design is you can't really learn it just by having somebody explain it to you. And so you got to do it, right? And so, you know, like you were talking about, like, I just want to show you some tools early on and then get out of the way and let you do stuff. And then, you know, you trust yourself and maybe you trust me and get out in doing it. And maybe it doesn't, you know, seem like, oh, you know what to do at the beginning, but you trust yourself and then you just work at it and you end up finding your way. And I think, do you have any of the like projects that stand out in your mind that you remember from that?
One of them was the desktop organizer. And that project was where we had to design, and then we ended up 3D printing a desktop organizer. And you taught us how to use this modeling software and the skills, but you didn't quite teach us how to make a desktop organizer. So we had to figure it out ourselves on how we needed to make it. We were given size constraints, but I ended up interviewing quite a few people on what I actually should include. And eventually, I have right here the 3D printed desk organizer with some supplies in it.
Yeah, nice. Had you ever made a desktop organizer before?
Nope, not at all.
Yeah, neither have I. And if you'd ever seen my desk, you would know that I don't really know anything about organizing a desk, right? But that's the point of the class, is that with time, you can figure out for yourself and talk to other people and get advice and input, and that things come together. And I don't need to teach you everything. And in some cases, I probably shouldn't be trying to teach you things like, say, desktop organizing. Are there any other projects you remember?
Yes, when we were programming a computer, and it was my first time doing anything like that. And it was very hard for me to see if and how I was going to be successful, because we only really had the constraints, but that was new to me. So I didn't really know what I should be doing yet.
Yeah, and programming is tough like that. It's a very different skill, and computers are very particular. And they'll do exactly what you tell them to, but sometimes what you tell them to is not exactly what you meant, right? And you got to work out how to think a little bit in a different way, like a computer, right?
Yeah.
And so, I know like you had to work at that a little bit, right? But I knew, we'd snowshoed 6-foot snowdrifts together. And so I was hoping that you would trust yourself and trust me that things are going to be okay, and that, if I'm going to be your little buddy there, I'm going to be your little buddy and help you out, and make sure things go okay for you in that class. And in the end, how'd that project work out?
It didn't work quite right the first time, or second, third, or a couple times after that, but eventually, as actually with a little help from you, I was able to produce a program that was working, which was kind of mind-blowing, because I didn't know how I was going to be able to do it at the start, and then I had a working program.
Yeah, and you kept with it, and you're right, like it doesn't necessarily work right the first time or the second, but that's design, is that it may not be exactly what you want the first time around, but keep working at it, and you get a little bit better each time around, and eventually, you get it. And it is just really cool to see you have faith in yourself and keep working at that. And then you were successful at the end. It's just so nice. And that was 8th grade, but you're a 9th grader now.
And I have chemistry with you.
I know, you cannot get rid of me, it seems, at this
Guess
point.
not.
So yeah, now you're in chemistry. And how's that going?
It's a bit of a challenging course, but with getting to know you and all of our experiences in and out of the classroom, like the encounter weeks, it's made it much easier and made me much more comfortable to be able to go to you to ask for help, ask questions, or just anything that I needed.
Yeah, and because I've had that chance to get to know you, and I know your style and preferences, and so I can be thinking about how we do things in class and work to try to create the lessons and the activities that work best for you, so that you're getting the most out of the course.
And this is what's so special that I found in VCS, is that I can't imagine another place where the person who I adventured with in Wyoming with 6-foot deep snow, planted trees with, and got challenged in a course is the same person.
Mm-hmm.
And
yep, I know. It's sort of the same. It's why I love teaching in this particular school, is the way that all those little things are just sort of spread through our experience together, in the classroom and then outside of the classroom, and those little things are like, when you graduate in a few years, I'm going to be waiting up at the podium with my fist out, and we're going to do Little Buddy, right? And you'll be taller, and I'll be the same height, maybe a little bit more gray in my chin, but it'll be that thing, and you're going to know exactly where that's from, and I'm going to know exactly where that's from. It's just going to be so much fun when we get to that point, but I'm going to enjoy every little bit of it along the way.
yes. Well,
Wow, thank you guys. Being a part of this community is always inspiring, and hearing that kind of back and forth definitely warms my heart. And I've watched so many of those interactions happen, and it's great to hear you guys talk about it. So thank you, thank you. I also want you to know that we will mention the questions that are coming up in the chat, and we will voice them so everyone has an opportunity to hear the answer. So thank you, faculty and student Talia and Mark. And next we are going to hear from Vicki, who is parent to a 9th grader.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vicki Tebbetts, and my daughter Adelie is a 9th grader at Vermont Commons. I was in your position not too long ago. Adelie joined Vermont Commons School last year for 8th grade. We moved from Cabot to South Burlington in search of better educational opportunities. And I have 2 kids, and I knew that one was a big school Division I athletics kid, and he goes to South Burlington High School. And my daughter Adelie found her perfect fit at Vermont Commons School. We chose VCS because she was really interested in science, among other things, and she was intrigued about the multiple subjects that are taught within a short period of time. She found that the way the curriculum is laid out, she was exposed to different areas of study. I'm really fortunate in that she loves both math and science, but also reading and writing. And she's kind of the sort of kid who's going to need some guidance to help determine what she wants to do in life, because she really has a lot of choices in what she wanted to do. Unlike me, I can't do math. So it was pretty clear to me what I wanted to do. And so she loved the fact that the curriculum is built around a mastery of skill, and that each skill goes into the next year. For instance, the high school curriculum, each semester is a different type of science. And she has chemistry this year for only for 1 semester, but then she doesn't have it for another couple of years where she'll have learned much more math, and then that'll be a whole different class. So it's pretty cool. She loved how the small class size enabled her to create new connections, and she could go deeper into theory and new ideas. In her math class currently, she just becomes so exhilarated because she has the time and space to discover new concepts. And she can always approach the teacher, and the teacher, in fact, told her she was discovering concepts that the teacher hadn't made part of the curriculum, but were to be delivered down the road in higher grades for math. And she was quite exhilarated by that experience, and it was great for her. She loves the fact that the small class sizes allow the opportunity to mix with all the different grades. When I first when we first joined Vermont Commons, and the very first encounter week comes really fast. It comes in September, mid-September. They're probably in school for only 2 to 3 weeks. And we were brand new. And I found out she was going camping in the Adirondacks, and there would be high school, here, this little middle schooler, there would be high school juniors and seniors, and she would be camping with them. And I was a little nervous because those kids are much older. And I said to Dexter, I just was kind of shell shocked, and I said, Dexter, I hope they're nice. And Dexter looked at me and he said, they're nice. And to me, that was kind of like the moment where I said, I have to trust this. And she went to the Adirondacks. She had an amazing time. She has many connections with all the students at all different grades. And it's really given her the opportunity, not only for leadership, but for mentoring as she rises through the ranks, which has been really neat for her and really important for her to who she is as a person. She feels like she's given the safe space she needs as someone who is not the kid who's always out front, that she has the opportunity to be herself and grow and learn as she starts to become more and more a part of the community and gets swept up in all the different things. This year, she's taken on a number of leadership positions. She's doing Model UN. She's doing Governor's Institute of Vermont as a 9th grader, her brand new program that they've just launched. She's really coming into her own, and she's only 3 months into her freshman year. So that's been great too. A little bit about the faculty we see with Talia and Mark. The support that the faculty gives is pretty amazing. The faculty-student relationships are really incredible, and the faculty itself is not like any other I've seen in any high school before. They're fun. They're incredibly well-versed in many aspects of not only what they teach, but in life, and they're invested in teaching and in education and in seeing the whole child and nurturing them and curating a person. by the time they graduate, who's an adult, who's prepared for the world and for whom the world is prepared for them. They allow students to question what they've always known and to challenge their ideas in that safe space while creating new ideas and new thoughts and new theories. They're constantly evolving their sense of who they are and their place in the world, especially these days, and engaging in those conversations in every subject that kind of beckon them to ask why and who they are. And to me, that's made the experience really, really valuable, because we need that kind of education, and she needs that education in her life. Finally, a lot of courses are driven by the faculty, it appears. So we still have the well-rounded curriculum. We have the traditional studies. We have English, we have science, we have language. But there are also many different projects, and they're maintaining a well-rounded curriculum while each faculty member is allowed to follow their passion and impart it over to the students. And their zest for learning and for teaching really shows in the end product with the students' investment in their own education. We heard a lot about how those relationships are set up for work and for play. The play is integral to all the relationships, and it also makes for a much stronger academic relationship and outcome, especially over time. Students have teachers every other year or so. It's not unusual for you to take a class as a 7th, 8th, or 9th grader and then take another class from that teacher at a more advanced level later on in your high school career. And while having a small student body could be difficult, in this case, it's amazing because the teachers are so amazing and the relationships are so strong. It allows teachers to see how students have grown, and it also allows the students to see how the teachers have grown, and how, you know, there's a big difference between the social relationships of a 6th grader or 7th or 8th grader versus a child who's turned 18 and is about to graduate. And everybody can see how that kid has changed and how the path they've taken to get there. And it's pretty neat. And the teachers and the faculty and the staff have a great deal of input into who that person becomes. We love Vermont Commons in general because it prepares my daughter for life as well as school. And I'm just enjoying watching her become the amazing person that she is.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Round of applause. If you were together, you would hear that. Yeah. Thank you, Vicki.
Thank you.
And we're so glad you guys are a part of our community.
Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions as well.
Super. So now we get to move to students talking and we can ask questions of them. So Tim, can we have our student panelists on the screen?
Absolutely.
Excellent. So we have students representing many of the grades who are happy to answer questions. They've been waiting all day for this. Right, guys? And I'm noticing as we're going, and we failed to mention this up front, but we could talk about Vermont Commons all day, just so you know. So we're going to do our best to keep this to the hour that we promised it would be, but I suspect we might go a few minutes over. So if you aren't able to stay, I completely understand, and don't hesitate to reach out to me. But in the meantime, let's listen to or ask some questions to our students and listen to their amazing answers. So I'm going to start with the first question that comes up, and Simon's on my screen. I don't know. I guess everybody's up here, and it depends on how you have your screen set up. But I see Simon, so we'll direct a question directly to you, Simon. What is your favorite class and why?
I have to say it's pretty split between critical theory and ecological economics right now. Critical theory I really enjoy because it sort of changes the way in which you think. You come into the class with a sort of closed-minded perspective, looking at certain texts one way, and a week in, you start saying, wow, like my entire way of thinking about this issue or this text completely changes. And I think that really applies to my other favorite class this year, which would be ecological economics, which is discussing the relationship between environmental damage and between economic shifts and the GDP per capita, et cetera, of a country. And I found it really fascinating because you have to sort of look at those issues from a critical theory lens. So I think to understand what's really going on there. So I think it really interacts in that way, that a lot of the classes at VCS sort of work in tandem to make sure that you're getting the most full sort of experience and education of a lot of these important issues.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We also have a question, and Matt's done a great job of answering it, but about the artistic activities that are offered. And we have many of you that could answer this. Anyone want to jump in on that one? And add anything to what I had said? I don't have all of my students up on my screen. Talia, do you want to talk about what the artistic activities include?
So like Matt mentioned, we have music, art, theater, recently a student arts council, and jazz band, in addition to the art and music encounter experiences. But we also have a dance team that at the moment we're figuring out how to really make it work online. But usually we meet during the non-pandemic times once a week, and we learn choreography and just kind of have fun for about an hour during PE.
Excellent. And you are a member of that dance team, correct?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Pretty awesome. I think one of the slides in the slideshow showed a picture of you guys performing at a coffee house. We typically have a coffee house too, which highlights many of our talented students. And that's pretty exciting. Another fun community gathering and an arts night, which Matt, we're doing an arts night, aren't we? Yeah.
Yes, indeed. December 16th or whatever that Thursday is.
Excellent. So lots of opportunities to experience and explore student artistic activities. Excellent. And let's see, tell me about electives that are offered at Vermont Common School. Who would like to jump on that? Iris, would you like to talk about electives that you've had the opportunity to take or that have been offered?
Sure. So the electives really sort of range from more sciencey types to art and music, to stuff that's going on in the news currently today. So my freshman year, I took a class about social justice, and we watched documentaries, we looked at articles, and we wrote essays, and we talked about social issues. And then last year I took epidemiology, where we studied diseases. We learned about the sort of main problems that occur when there's a disease outbreak, which ironically, then the COVID-19 pandemic hit. And then this year I am taking conservation biology, and we're learning about just conservation of different endangered species and that type of stuff. So the elective program for high schoolers, that's in the fall, I should say. And then for middle schoolers, that's in the spring. And it just gives people an opportunity to learn and focus in on something and their knowledge and their horizon of learning. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. All right. And how about Charlotte? Do you want to tell us a little bit about your encounter experience right now?
Sure. I'm actually a leader in training on the mountain biking encounter experience. I had to miss last Wednesday actually, so that was sad, but we have 1 week left, and basically just every Wednesday we've been out at Catamount in Williston. And I'd actually never mountain biked before, So this was a totally new experience for me, but it's been really fun and I've learned so much. And it's just nice to have like one day a week where you're outside, not on screens, and you're with people. And I don't know, I've been really loving my encounter experience and I'm very excited for the next one. If anybody else wants to say anything about theirs, totally feel free.
Excellent. Thank you. Georgia, do you want to talk about yours?
Sure. I'm also a leader in training on mine, along with Adelie, who is also on student panel today, and a couple other students. And we've been on the hiking one, the Central Vermont Hiking Wednesday. We've been hiking stuff in Vermont, like we did. Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting what hikes we did. But we did a couple hikes, and it's really fun because it's like mixed grades and you get to see friends from other grades, and that's really nice. Yeah.
Excellent. And let's go to Adelie. You are also on the Central Hiking, yes? Yeah, do you want to talk about what it's like? And I know Mom talked a little bit about this and we've covered it a little bit. Do you want to talk about what it's like to be a new student at Vermont Common School?
Yeah, of course. So obviously, as conditions are different, it's probably a little different, but when I joined, it was very welcoming. On my visit day, I wasn't expecting it, but you get announced in front of the whole school as a guest and everyone like claps, and it's an experience for sure. But the first day of school is a hike, so you're not actually in school and like in a constrained environment, but you're outside and you really get to know everyone through like get to know you games and just talking. So I think that definitely helps before you move into classes, and you just kind of fall right in and just go with the flow and you'll be fine.
We often say that new students feel like they're new students longer than everyone else does. You are immediately part of the community. So I'm glad to hear that that sounds like it was your experience, Adelie. Excellent. And how about what is morning meeting? I know that Adelie just referenced it. How about Evie? Do you want to tell us about morning meeting?
Yeah. So morning meeting is where everybody from every class and all the teachers and anybody else who happens to be at the building just meets in the morning. And there's announcements. Sometimes there's entertainment. We could watch a video, or some students will perform a play. Sometimes there have been classes who have been working on something. Like last year, our class we did robotics, and we programmed some Lego robots, and we showed it off at morning meeting. And it was really fun because it's very welcoming and you don't feel like you're in the spotlight. You just like feel like you're among friends.
Awesome. Morning meeting is one of my favorite parts of the day. So glad to hear that you feel the same way. How about sports? Simon, Evie, Iris, who wants to talk about sports? Evie, you want to start because we can see you?
Yeah, so I generally do volleyball, but this year I branched out and I started doing cross country. And I'm not the biggest runner, but when I started, it was actually very fun. And it's not like just drills and drills and drills and just like you go run. It's like you get to hang out with your friends and chat while you're running. And yeah, and volleyball is very like a community because you have to work on your leadership skills in the court, and you also have to work as a team together to make sure the ball works.
Nice. And maybe Charlotte can talk a little bit about volleyball, and then we have basketball represented here also with Simon, right?
Yeah, I actually, this year I'm doing cross country like Evie, and Simon and I are actually co-captains of the cross country team together. So he can also speak to cross country, but I played volleyball for VCS for 3 years in middle school, and it was always just so much fun. The captains are great, the coaches are great, and I learned a lot. It was just I mean, I don't play volleyball now, but it's a skill that I have. And the majority of people, I guess, at Vermont Commons, a lot of people play volleyball. So it's really just like this community sport, and you just feel so involved. And yeah, it's great. But same with cross country. I mean, it's really fun. Yeah, Simon, if you want to say anything about cross country.
Yeah, I mean, being totally honest, if your goal is for your student to become a professional athlete, this is probably not the right team. But aside from that, we have a really positive culture in terms of sports. Folks show up, you get to make friends outside of your grade. And in terms of actually competing, we generally compete at similar levels of most Vermont public schools. We, for the volleyball and ultimate, I think, we compete in playoffs and VPA sanctioned stuff like that. For cross country, we normally go to states for the high school, and the middle school does, this year, obviously it's a little different due to COVID restrictions, but middle school normally also has a lot of invitational meets and co-op meets. For basketball, we tend to play a lot of the Christian academies, the Waldorf school. And overall, the culture surrounding our sports is, I've been to a lot of schools, and it's probably the best I've ever seen in terms of sports culture. So that's what I gotta say there.
Excellent, thank you. So students, thank you so much. I feel like we could ask you questions all day, but I want to make sure that we get a chance to talk to our faculty and parents. So thank you. And folks know that if you want to reach out to me, and I am happy to forward any question that you have to any one of our wonderfully esteemed students that have been with us today. I can forward the questions on to them. So thank you so much. And now we will move on to faculty and parents. So there have been a couple of questions about homework and what it's like to be a high school student. Jasmine or Dexter, would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Jasmine, why don't you grab that one?
Sure. So I'm Jasmine Easter. I'm the assistant head of school. So I pay attention to kind of the academic program and how that works. We have students enter at all different grade levels. So someone was asking about what grade levels different students enter at. We certainly have a large chunk of students who enter at sixth grade, our entry year, but we have students enter at all different grades. And we do usually have a chunk of new students start at the ninth grade level too, just looking for that high school experience. And as Talia said in the chat, our middle school program does do a great job of preparing students for high school. But as Iris said, who started at our school in ninth grade, you know, kids definitely pick up right at the ninth grade level too. And a lot of those skills are taught then as well, but kind of at a higher level for them. There's an ask about homework and kind of what level of homework you could expect in the ninth grade. There is homework, you know, most nights in most classes, but students won't experience that to be busy work. That work is work that's meaningful and really related to what's going on in class. Might be things like sketching trees and really being outdoors and digging into understanding the natural world might be part of your homework rather than filling out a worksheet or collecting measurements for something or reading a text that you're then going to have a discussion or a debate about. So the work is not something that you do and then kind of forget about and just busy work to give you something to do. It's work that's really meaningful that kind of feeds into the content of what's going on in class and gives you opportunities to practice the things you're learning.
Excellent, thank you. And how about Kathy and Pauline? Would you guys like to talk about parent involvement at Vermont Commons School? Kathy.
Hi, I'm Kathy Townsend. I have an 11th grade gal, and I also have a graduate from last year. And so parent involvement this year has been still very nice. We have coffees that we have online together that we get to chat and catch up on with everybody. We've had grade specific parent meetings to just get into a bigger chat about our specific grade. That's been really nice. We had apple picking this year, which was so fun that the kids got together and the parents even kind of stayed and got to chat. So we're still very involved. And in other years, we get together lots of different times. So it's a wonderful community, very welcoming.
Do parents have to be involved?
Not at all. It's whatever you like to do.
We welcome it. It's true, but it's not, not a criteria of
Yeah,
being.
sometimes it's you see somebody once in a while at pickup or drop off, and you get to, catch up then. And so it's nice to see people.
Absolutely. Excellent. And then I realized Julian, our wonderful graduate, speaking of graduates, thank you, Kathy. Julian has to scoot because he's preparing, as he told us earlier, for midterms. But before you leave, Julian, can we ask you one question? Yay, he says yes. Tell us about your favorite VCS experience.
Oof,
Now
that's
that you can reflect a little.
yeah. I would say I think the whole Encounter Week experience was pretty great. Just getting away from, I guess, kind of the world of Vermont and school and just being somewhere entirely different. In particular, the trip to Santa Ana in Lima, Peru was probably my highlight of VCS. Just as a trip, it's very undescribable. You just have to go there to understand, and that's what I think makes it so special.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It was wonderful to see you. I look forward to seeing you again. This is one of the silver linings of Zoom that you could join us today. So thanks. Bye. And Kathy didn't mention she is the co-leader of the Parent Ambassador Group. We do have parent ambassadors that coordinate some of the events that she was talking about. And she's also a member of our Board of Trustees and has a graduate, an 11th grader, which I think you mentioned. That's pretty cool. Thanks. And then Pauline is here too. She also is a co-leader and board member and has a senior.
Hi. I just wanted to complete to what Kathy said. My son started here in 8th grade. And at the time, I was not part of the Parents Ambassador group, but it was very amazing. I was really inspired to join the group based on how the teachers and faculty rally around my child and help him integrate and become a full part of the student body. And within a month, that was mind blowing for me. And every time I went to the school from a fresh outsider, to see how the parents' involvement was really key to holding the school community spirit together, along with faculty and the rest of the parents, and from the smallest task to the biggest one. It was such a very integrated group of people. And for me, that was really amazing. And that was one of the inspiration and encouragement to make me want to be part of the Parents Ambassador group. You don't have to, but once you just dab into it, you just can't hold back, because you get to know the school better, you get to know the teachers, and extension, the student better, and you really do appreciate the beyond the scene of the help and encouragement and support that the teachers bring to your child. So for any parents that join the school, I will say you really want to know and appreciate what the student and the teachers do together and how well they get to know your child. You should become a Parents Ambassador, and it doesn't have to be big. It can just be the smallest little thing, and it goes all the way.
Excellent. Thank you. We're so glad to have you both in that role, and all of our parent ambassadors, all of our parent helpers today. So Tracy, I see a question in the chat that might be great for you to answer about coming from an area that's not right in our backyard in South Burlington, and what that's like socially for students and families.
Hi, everyone. My name's Tracy, and we live in Cornwall, Vermont. I'm a parent of an 11th grader currently and an alumna. And I was actually joking, maybe it wasn't private, but when you asked Julian what his favorite part of VCS was, I said, carpooling? Because Julian was a big part of my girls' lives, because he could drive and his license allowed him to take passengers. So Julian and my two daughters, and sometimes we had a few other VCS kids, they went to school together. And now that my then senior is now graduated, my 11th grader does not even have a permit yet. So, you just build it into your day. But I do feel like there are a lot of families, whether they live in your town or, in the environs, we sort of come together and figure out ways to make it work. So yeah, thanks.
Excellent, thank you. We definitely have robust car sharing, it is true, and a very willing to help parent group and students. I think I saw Simon say in the chat that he's been driving himself to school. And I remember his mom kind of counting the days for him to have his driver's license. Is that true, Simon? Yeah. Excellent. So Jillian, I know we referenced this earlier. Would you like to talk about, could you answer the question of what is it like to be a new family? We're considering a move to Vermont. Let me know, or please share what it might be like to be a new family, new to the area, not just new to the school. Oops, you're muted.
There we go. I'm also going to try and change the view here because I'm looking at myself. That's okay. I can look at myself and
okay.
Well, we moved to Vermont last year from Colorado, and although the move for me was coming back to my hometown and being closer to my family, it was a really big move for my kids and for my husband. So when we arrived, our now 9th grade daughter, Lucia, was entering 8th grade, and our daughter Zinnia, who's now in 6th grade at Vermont Common School, we were homeschooling her for the year. And it was a big transition. It's a big deal to move. It's a big deal to move across the country. And I felt particularly anxious about it as the mama bear. And I just cannot even explain how comforting it felt to be welcomed into this community. I mean, literally, there was no, when people talk about a transition into school, there just really wasn't any, because Lucia stepped in and she was gone, off with new friends and classes and new interests, and she was thriving literally immediately, which I was so happy about and quite shocked, truly. We were so welcomed into this community, so much so that our daughter Zinnia, who's now in 6th grade, would visit the school periodically to get ready to join the community in a very official way. And she was like, she had friends, she was meeting the teachers, she felt so connected. So we feel so grateful for the warm welcome and to be a part of this community. It's a wonderful community, and sitting in this meeting with everyone and seeing the students and faculty, and it's so heartwarming. It's a wonderful community to step into. It's a warm, welcoming place.
Thank you. That feels good. And we feel the same way about having you in the community. So wonderful. I am now going to ask Ryan a question that's come in about critical theory. That was something that Simon mentioned. Did you want to talk a little bit about kind of that in the context of the scope of English at Vermont Commons?
Yes, Simon. Great job, Simon.
You get credit for that, right?
My name is Ryan. I teach English to both 11th and 8th and 9th. Vermont Commons for a long time has done critical theory in 11th grade, where we study LGBTQ theory, psychoanalytical theory, feminist theory, African-American theory, post-colonial theory. And it's fun. I absolutely love it. I was a little dubious when I came to Vermont Commons. I was like, can these students really do this? This is college level analysis. And they're amazing. They do just great work. And we try to, once we learn all the terms, apply them to contemporary things like podcasts, music videos, you name it. It's really fun, like Bob Dylan, that sort of thing, anything. I've learned some fun pop songs I'd never seen before. Does that answer the question? I realize we're already over time.
That's true, we are. Yeah, that's great. You guys want to try to squeeze in a few more? I hope everybody has an appetite for that. Thank you, Ryan. What about, we mentioned design thinking earlier, and this would be a question for Mark. Can you talk about the scope and sequence of science at Vermont Commons School?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Actually, if I'll screen share this, we've got a little matrix here about this, and let me get some things out. Okay, so you can see along the left-hand side, we got our grades 6 through 12, and then split by fall and spring semester. And I think it got mentioned earlier that our courses for science, by and large, starting with 8th grade and then all the way through semester-long things. In the middle school years, 6th grade interdisciplinary science, an opportunity to do hands-on experiments and begin to see things that are everyday experiences for even a 6th grader through the lens of a scientist, and start to think about and learn about the principles that explain some of those things that they have everyday experience with. In the 7th grade year, it's a focus on ecology, and particularly a focus on the local ecology, the living Vermont, taught by Peter Goff, the longest serving member of our faculty. And so that studies flora and fauna and ecology, focusing on our local area. In the 8th grade year, we have a couple of semesters. One, that design thinking course that Talia and I talked about, think like an engineer. And then the scientific methods courses could be think like a scientist and begin to understand the scientific method, design your own experiments with hypotheses and then controls, and then analyze the data. In the 9th through 11th grade years, we go through the core curriculum, core disciplines, chemistry, biology, physics that you would see everywhere. And so we get that foundational knowledge, and we break it up in a way that's pretty unusual, I think. And we do that because we like the idea that things are connected, and being able to see those different things from the same topics from the perspective of different science disciplines is really powerful. In the 9th grade year, so I start with chemistry, and then when biology comes in the spring semester, that's a semester basically of cell biology. And it turns out that a cell is essentially a container in which chemistry happens. And so having a little bit of chemistry knowledge before beginning cell biology makes then the learning that students can do a little bit richer and deeper. And Peter doesn't have to do a little bit of chemistry in that class because the students have that thing already built in. And we can do the same thing the 11th grade year, where I teach both semesters, and another opportunity there where the focus is physics 2 and chemistry 2, but themes like, say, energy as a big scientific theme can be looked at from different perspectives, and we see the overlaps and interconnections between them through those disciplines. And then the 12th grade year, what we've got there, space science and marine biology, those are elective courses, and those were the elective courses that our current senior class chose that they wanted to have taught, and they picked from a menu of maybe about 12 different options for advanced electives. And when those individual grades then select what they prefer to dive deeper into, then we meet them where they are and offer those particular courses.
Excellent. Do we have at least 5 more questions that have come to me through the chat and an email? And I'd love to get to them. I don't want to keep us too long, but I'd love to answer these if you have time. If you have to pop out, please do so. Do know that we will be hosting Dexter and I on Thursday morning at 8:30, a little Zoom informal Q&A that we can answer any questions that have surfaced after this open house, or tell you anything more that you'd like to know. It's informal. It's Thursday morning. Just let me know if you'd like to attend, and you can certainly join us for that. But the next 5, I'll just run down, and then we'll have people hop on these. One is about college placement, and I don't know, Dexter or Jasmine, would you like to talk about how that works?
I'm going to defer to Jasmine again, just because I spoke so much at the beginning, but I'll stay on. Jasmine, you want to start out and I can tag team with you?
Sure. So college placement is really driven by student interest, and we really focus on making good connections. So college placement for us is about finding the right fit for students. We're not in the business of trying to get all of our students into top tier schools, and we have students every year who go to top tier schools. And we have students every year who go to excellent art schools, excellent schools that have outdoor education programs, excellent schools in science, technology, across the board in different regions. Our college counselors work individually with students really across their time at the school, but especially beginning in the spring of their junior year, getting to know them. And we actually have a college counseling course that students take through this spring of their junior year and continue in the fall of their senior year to help them really make that connection. And a thing that's really different at Vermont Commons is the way that our faculty know our students. And so those recommendations and those the applications that students submit are really thoughtful and personal. And we often say that we don't prepare students for entry to college, we prepare students for successful completion of college. And so our program, a lot of programs focus a lot on how do you get into college. We focus not just on how do you get into college, which is of course important, we focus most on how do you have the skills and proclivities to find success once you're there. And how do you make sure that you're going to a program that's going to be a good fit, that's going to result in a degree that's going to create the life that students want to have beyond their educational experience, in a way that they're going to be able to give back to the world and the community in the ways that work with their interests and proclivities.
And I think the only thing I would add is that the two college counselors, Marta and Susan, who work with all our juniors and seniors, each student is lined up with one college counselor and will spend their junior spring, not just in the classes that Jasmine mentioned, but working directly with that particular college counselor who will shepherd them all the way through the application process in the fall, and then the admission matriculation process in the spring, also meeting with parents individually and in groups all along the way. And the other thing, and just echoing Jasmine's, that all important thing about that she was saying at the end about it's not about a fantastic college application, it's about fantastic college completion. We define that in a very metric driven way. Our focus is ensuring that all of our graduates complete a course of college or university study within 4 to 6 years. Partially that's allowing for time off or a deferred start or a transfer if that is what the student finds they need to do. But we want to make sure that students are not completing college. We want to make sure that they do complete and that it's in a time frame that means that they don't face financial hazard. So students completing college over a decade can amount an enormous quantity of debt. And so our target is always 4 to 6 years. Our target is securing incredible merit scholarships for them, as well as helping families with the financial aid process. And the metric that we look for is we'd love to have 100% on that, but generally we fall in the 85 to 90% of our graduates completing college or university within 4 to 6 years. And we're very proud of that accomplishment and feel that it supports all of their needs as well as their and their families' long-term well-being. And we love the range. Just echoing what Jasmine said again, if Julian wants to go to Columbia, we want to make sure that Julian gets into Columbia, but we are all about fit. And we loved, I think it was 2 years ago, we had 4 or 5 of our students attending art school. We love the creative side. We love the fit side. We love the side that is going to be the best match for them and supporting that all the way through. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. All right. And we have a question about how do Vermont Commons middle school students, how prepared are they for high school? And that's a great question. We've talked a lot about middle school curriculum and what is it like to enter the school as a 6th grader or a 9th grader. So this is, does the middle school program prepare students for high school, or how does it? How about Karen as a mom? Is that something you're comfortable sharing with us? You have a good perspective on that. Thanks.
Yeah, so I'm Karen and I have a 12th grade son and an 8th grade daughter, both of whom started at BCS in somewhere along the line in 7th grade. So they both, Benjamin has made the transition into high school and gone all the way up through, and Elizabeth is on the cusp in 8th grade. I guess what I've seen, particularly with Benjamin, since we've gone through the whole thing, is that he began in 7th grade as a student who was pretty reticent about talking to teachers if he had questions or didn't understand why something had happened the way it did. He wasn't particularly tuned into the community. He was pretty tuned into his own self. So on E-weeks, he was working on just making sure he had his own gear, but not thinking at all about anybody else on the trip. Likewise, at recess, he was sort of very competitive and needed some guidance. In terms of studying, he wasn't super organized and he needed me to check in with him frequently. But I will say over the year and a half he spent in middle school, those issues were quickly identified by the teachers and the staff, and people began working with him directly on those things, so that by the time he hit 9th grade, I no longer was really checking in with him about, did you get your homework turned in? Or, hey, I saw that there was this low grade on the parent portal, but he had already talked to the teacher about it and made a plan for retaking it. Likewise, the e-weeks began molding him into a person who had a broader perspective than just the egocentrism of the middle school Benjamin, to the point where he's become a student leader on trips and takes charge of projects at school and is now a tutor. So I guess I can say that from our perspective, the middle school program did a pretty fantastic job of taking him and getting him ready for high school.
Excellent. Thank you for that perspective. We think both of your kiddos are pretty awesome students. So thank you. We do have people that need to depart, so please feel free to leave. And thank you so much for joining us. We will stay on for, let's say, another 10 minutes to answer a few more questions. So you're also welcome to stay. I feel badly we haven't heard from all of our esteemed faculty or parents, so I feel badly that we can't get to everyone. But how about encounter experiences? I saw that Emma had asked about encounter experiences. I feel like it was really well answered. But Kat, I don't know if you would like to add anything else to how we choose them, how they're determined.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to add something. It's exactly what was, you can hear me, right? I'm sorry. Zoom is being weird for me. It's exactly what was written in the chat. We basically put out a table and we find out what our faculty interested in. I think it's what makes our experiences so wonderful, is it's like we come up with those. So I'm on a mountain biking experience because I love mountain biking and I wanted to share it with students and other, I get to lead with Catherine, who's here, and Ben. They also shared that they love mountain biking and wanted to lead it. And we also work to make sure we have a broad variety of experiences so that people who like to bike and hike have something that they will be interested in, as well as more academically minded ones like the mapping, as well as ones in the arts like songwriting or autumn writing. The sculptures was a really, really cool option. So we're trying to always make sure that there's a nice variety so that everyone will find something that they're interested and excited about. And similar to what Catherine said, I oftentimes have envy of wanting to be on multiple ones as well, or to experience them myself.
Super, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. And then do we want to have a world language quick rundown? Adriana, can you talk about our world language offerings and how we teach world language?
Hi, yes, I would love to. So I'm Adriana, I'm the chair of the World Language Department, and at Vermont Commons, we offer Spanish and Chinese. And we have an approach of comprehension-based instruction. So this means that our students start exposed to the language right from the beginning. We do it through stories and short videos, and little by little their language and their grammar structure grows. We are not a school that is focused on memorization of vocabulary or grammar rules. We actually want our students to be exposed to actual Spanish or Chinese speech, readings, and then eventually they emerge from our program having real conversations with native speakers. In the Spanish side, we have a sister relationship with a school in Peru, the one that Julian was referring at the beginning, Santa Ana, which we have been doing exchange program for, I would say, 4 years. This will be our 5th year if everything was going to go well. They come to Vermont Commons. We also go to their campus in Lima, and we spend a whole week there living with families from the same school, attending their classes and doing different activities in the city of Lima. And when they come over here, also we host them. Every time that they come to the school, it is this rich experience because they live with us, and we want to make sure that they're also part of our community in the same way when we are there. So in our program, you get to use the language that you learn all these years in real context. Even now that we're not able to travel there or they come here, we are hosting Zoom meetings. We are doing email exchanges, and probably and we're looking to see if some of our students can participate in the Model UN that they are hosting soon. The same way, we're looking for the same experiences with a Chinese school. Before the pandemic, also the Chinese program was able to travel to a possible sister school. Is just this change our plans a little bit, but we are continuously looking for these opportunities for our students to put in practice their skills in the real world, that they see that it's not just a subject that happens on the textbook, but it is more than that, that is deeper, that it is a culture, a way to see the world different, and that we can be part of, we can grow relationships with them. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. And how about Erica? Are you still here with us? Could you share any advice for a middle school parent considering a transition to Vermont Common School? Anything that you think might make it an easier transition?
Any advice? The community reaches out so nicely to everyone and makes everyone feel so welcome that there's not as much active that you need to do on the part of an incoming parent, which is really nice. You're really welcome into the community. And I guess my advice would be that if somebody says, feel free to reach out, do, because people are very authentic and genuine in the community and really want to be helpful. And I would just recommend take advantage of whatever opportunities, and especially the coffees, those kind of things. I know we've been in different school situations before where you're kind of standing in the corner, waiting for somebody to talk to you, being new, and that just doesn't happen at VCS events. People really are aware of new people and make an effort to come and talk to you and are curious and truly interested in new community members, which is great. So I guess my advice is to really take advantage of what opportunities as they come. Even the Zoom meetings are great. Everything that they've been able to do online has been a nice surprise. You never really know what's going to happen in this climate, and so VCS has really risen to the challenge. And so yes, my advice: take advantage of the opportunities. You will be welcomed and comfortable doing so.
That's great. Thank you so much. And then I guess lastly, maybe Bethany, and I don't know, then Tim, if you want to tag off this, but just how do we support students kind of wholly, the whole student, social, emotional, through everything? And I don't know, Bethany, if you wanted to take a stab at that, and then certainly Tim as our Dean of Students can elaborate as well.
I don't see Bethany here anymore.
Oh, did she have to scoot? Talia did have to go somewhere. She might have been the transportation.
Tim, you were my thought about that one anyway.
That's okay. Tim, you're on.
So there are one of the great advantages of being a small school and the way that we're structured is that we're able to take the long view in the student's development. So each student has an advisor. The sixth grade is its kind of own self-enclosed thing, but then they'll get an advisor in the seventh grade, and the idea is that they'll have that advisor until they graduate. And that person really gets to know them. They do monitor academic growth, but they also look at the social and emotional side as well. And so they're paying attention and to the student. They really get to know the student one-on-one. They also really get to know the parents and the family. We also have core group advisors. Core group is our fancy term for grade level. And for each grade level, for each core group, there's an advisor who stays at a particular grade and has years move through them. So for example, I'm the 8th grade core group advisor, and I was also the 8th grade core group last year, and next year I'll be with the 8th grade. But there's also a core group advisor who moves with the grade. So Jasmine was their core group advisor in 7th grade, and then when they moved to 8th grade, she stayed with them. And now that they're 9th graders, she's still their core group advisor. And so this is a great way for her to get to know them and also have essentially another set of eyes and ears for the students. I'll also say that none of the faculty really view their role as like contained to within the classroom. So because of the way that the teaching assignments work, oftentimes the student will have a teacher in 7th grade, and then they might have that teacher again in 8th grade or in 9th grade, and then again in 11th grade. And so the teacher can kind of see that progression and provide mentorship along the way. And then the one other one that I'll mention is the Encounter program, which that's a really great way to get to know kids. Other people have mentioned this earlier in the program, but that's where, you know, because you're cooking together over a campfire, or, you know, brushing your teeth together, or, you know, you're soaked and you're trying to get dried out together after a long day's bike ride or something, you get to know each other in really pretty cool ways. And so that's another way that we get to know students and can, the Encounter Week program is very much about their personal growth within, with other people, within the class, and as they go over time. So those are a few of the ways off the top of my head that we oversee kind of that growth. And then if we do see issues, we have a watch and support committee, which is myself, Jasmine as the assistant head of school, and the school counselor, who anytime we see any concerns, we're always, as the name says, we're watching for any concerns, and we're there to provide support as necessary.
Excellent. And as you all can see, we could talk about our school and all the wonderful things that happen every day at Vermont Commons. So I apologize for keeping you way over the time that I promised that we'd be together today. So thank you for experiencing our community via Zoom today. Please follow up with questions directly to me, and I can forward them to the appropriate person. And also know that we'd love to have you join us on Thursday morning for coffee. If that works for your schedule, we'd love to answer some more questions for you, or just tell you more about Vermont Commons. So it was a pleasure to have you join us today. Thank you. All of us are clapping, and we loved having your participation. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we appreciate you investigating Vermont Common School for your child. We can't think of a better thing for you to do for your family and kiddo. So thanks.
Also, for those of you still, on considering the school, if you have a burning question right now, a few of us are happy to stay on and can continue to answer questions, but we do want to respect the time for those of you that have other places to be, including both our panelists and our attendees. But if you are an attendee and are just still really wishing to ask some more questions, feel free to type them in the chat and we'll make sure to answer them.
Yes.
Thanks for covering, everyone. And thanks to all the panelists as well. Very much appreciate everyone's time.
You're awesome.